Hey, I'm Jonathan, and I live in London, England.
Hey, I'm Jeff, and I live in Perth, Australia.
Together, we are Echo and Sidetrack.
We produce music that sounds like this.
And this.
And even this. This podcast is about music, creativity, and everything in between the giant space that separates us.
Welcome to A Band Apart with Echo and Sidetrack.
Hey, buddy, how are you doing?
I'm good, buddy. I want to start today's podcast by thanking a couple of people for reaching out after last week's podcast.
Yeah.
I got a couple of messages saying, just listen to the podcast. I hope you're okay. And a couple of them saying that they were also feeling like their swamp monster was taking control a bit more and that it makes them feel a bit better knowing that other people deal with swamp monsters.
I think it's a very, very common occurrence. I think everyone has one, and it's just how much attention you pay. And I think it's also like some people have learnt to overcome and some people haven't been so perilled by them yet, perhaps. And some people have just different names for it. And I think it's really important that you shared. Thank you very much again.
Yeah, no, I think it's very good that I shared too. I think it was very cathartic for me. I found it quite like a pressure release valve. Like a bit of pressure had been off. And yeah, I feel better. I feel better this week.
That's great.
Albeit a little tired from the weekend we had.
Do you think some of that has to do with some of the fact that you have less stresses this week, though?
No.
Last week was really busy with our output, like the work we were putting in at the studio. Like we were here every night till after 12 and things like that. And so do you think the lack of sleep and lack of personal space and things like that may have contributed to the extra stress, or do you think it was just how you were feeling in general last week?
No, I think it was it was probably the lack of sleep and the push that we were doing. But I think it was also just a combination of the weekend before and some of our interactions and leading up to Reunited. And just like it's like little building blocks, you know? You put a block on top of another and it's not really that tall, but then after a while you realize this structure you've created is actually quite tall and it could tumble at any time. And I just think it tumbled on Thursday a bit for me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad you feel better and you got a bit more space and bandwidth and things like that.
Yeah.
And yes, also thank you to the people that did get in touch and say that they enjoyed the podcast. And I had a few people say to me that they really enjoyed the podcast. And they enjoyed and thanks you for your vulnerability. And they, enjoy hearing us chat about this stuff. And just another reminder to anyone listening is like, we just sat down to record this and I asked Jono, do you have anything you want to talk about? And you were like, I'll think of something. So we do just go off the cuff with these things, and it is just, I don't know. We're glad that you enjoyed them.
Yeah, they're just conversations.
Fucking headache, eh?
You've got a headache. Again.
Yeah, this is...
Jeff's turmoil. This week it's Jeff's turn.
No, I'm just a little bit under the weather, man, because last night I slept for 12 hours, which was really good.
Yeah.
I felt rough. I've just got a bit of that like head cold kind of thing, like that little head cold headache, bit of a sore throat, bit of trouble swallowing, can't taste, can't smell.
Coughing a lot. It's very dry. No, just kidding.
How crazy is it that we've gone to being able to joke about COVID to some degree? Anyway,
I was joking about COVID in early 2019.
You were
I was
pre-COVID. You were
Yeah.
joking about COVID in 2019.
I was sick. I think it was
It's been revealed Jonathan's now part of the Illuminati, and I will be squeezing him for facts.
I think it
a
was-
whole year before COVID hit, Jonathan was making jokes about the pandemic.
no in
What do you know?
December 2019 or January 2020. I remember I was a bit sick, and I was at the gym at F45, and it was like, oh, you probably have that COVID thing.
That would have been around Feb 2020.
And I also had gone to a social outing, and I was like, I was sick a couple of weeks ago, and someone was like, oh, not that bat flu. Remember
It was-
people were calling it bat flu.
And that's the thing. It was a big joke. Just back to how I was feeling.
Hmm.
Back to me. No, yeah, I've just got like a head cold and everything. I think the last month has just caught up with me. Like lots of late nights, lots of just things.
Social outings as well.
Things I can sense my immune system starting to deplete,
Yeah.
and I was taking stock of some of those things, but I was also just pushing it because I'm like, I need more sleep, and I'm like, oh, you can sleep later because you've got to do this thing. And it's not like I was running on 4 hours sleep for a month. It was consistently pushing myself and being quite busy.
But I think we both need more sleep than we admit to some extent. Like,
I think
couple-
I'm okay with the amount of sleep I'm getting, and I monitor mine. You can speak for yourself in some of these things.
okay, no, I only say that because in the past 3 weeks, you've said to me multiple times when we've come into the studio together, you're like, I didn't get enough sleep last night. And even we've left the studio that night and it's been going well. And then it gets to this point of like, you realize that you've got to go to work the next day or you've got something to do the next day. And you're like, fuck, I need more sleep. That's all. I've just been noticing
that's
that
how
you've needed
that's
more sleep.
genuinely how I feel. And I know that when my immune system gets down, I need to eat good food. I need to
I saw you taking some
sleep.
immune boosters today or some sort of multivitamin. What was that?
Yeah, that's like garlic and echinacea and C and stuff like that. I'll probably eat a chunk of garlic tonight. And I got my betadine throat gargle. Just stuff like that. Either way, me talking about my current feelings
Sickness.
kind of boring. But what I was going to say is just that head coldy feeling, and some of it is from finally having completed a task and being like, okay, I can stop now. And then you're like, whoa, I feel worse than I thought I did.
I think when you have a task to complete, you can put things to the side quite easily, especially health and self-care and that type of thing. But the task we finished is really fucking good, and it feels good that we finished it.
And hopefully we can share it with you, dear listener, and everyone else soon enough.
Yeah, I think we will.
Something I've been thinking about this week, and I wanted to get your perspective on, Jonathan, was how do you feel about virtual festivals, and what do you think is their future, and what do you think would be something that you'd like to see, something cool? Because I don't think they're going to go away, and I think COVID just fast-tracked moving into more of a digital space. And just for the listener, a digital festival would be like a virtual festival. Like I know Splendor in the Grass is doing one this year, where you pay money for a ticket and you attend, maybe it's in virtual reality, maybe it's just on your computer and you can watch and have access to all these things. Billie Eilish did a virtual performance, which was like a live stream.
Tame Impala did a live stream.
Lots of bands have done them. I'm just saying, I suppose what I'm saying is people have all of a sudden become quite happy to pay money for a one-off digital experience that is kind of, in some cases, a quarter of an actual live attendance fee, like a live ticket. So where do you think the future of this space is going, and what do you think is something interesting to look out for?
Well, we know someone that recently shot something for Tomorrowland, the Digital Tomorrowland Festival, which they did last year as well. And apparently that sold over 100,000 tickets. So I think financially it's definitely got a future because you're not just getting people that have to fly into Belgium and get hotels and all that stuff. You're getting people from everywhere around the world who maybe can't get to that place, are willing to pay, $10, $20 and maybe get together with their friends and have a bit of a VR party. That's a shitload of money, especially when the running costs of doing it suddenly are quite lower, much lower. So financially, it's got huge potential. And then from an experience-wise, I think younger generations are definitely more comfortable spending more time online than older generations.
And in a virtual space
And
as well.
in a virtual space.
Like,
you look
look
at
at
how popular things like Minecraft are
exactly.
and how accessible VR is becoming.
Hospital Records do not a Minecraft festival, but their festival was built in the Minecraft platform.
Yeah. And I think people maybe that are turning 18 this year, there's going to be people that are maybe turned 18 last year and haven't been able to go out. And their form of going out hasn't been clubs. It's been to virtual clubs. So
I never kind of thought of the people like a whole year group.
A whole year group has never, depending on where you live, but predominantly have never gone to a real festival, have never gone to a real nightclub. They've only experienced those things in a virtual space. So what happens if in 10 years, potentially, that the new thing and the thing that younger people attach themselves to is the digital realm? Like, as the digital realm gets more realistic to a certain extent and the graphics get better and the experience is become more inclusive, I think people are going to start preferring the digital to the real. There'll be a bounce back and real festivals will never go away, I don't think, because there's something magical about experiencing music or art or food or anything that you experience at a festival with a group of people. But if the audience is willing to pay an amount to experience something digitally, and we're still kind of semi-fractured as a world because of COVID, and companies can still make quite a bit of money from it, I think there's definitely going to be a large amount of motivation to do more digital festivals. And I don't think, because I feel the same about streaming, like streaming sets. Streaming sets will still be a thing. They're still going to be like a popular piece of content to push out on social media or to even to like promoters to get booked, or just like it's a cool, almost like an art piece. It's just something else that you add to your tool belt of accessories you have as an artist. I think that's just all going to continue and be added. When live shows come back, it's just going to be added on. So maybe like there'll be a mixture of things, of VR and real world. So say you go to Liquicity, big up Liquicity. You go to Liquicity and there's like a VR tent when you can experience one of the shows the night before. They replay the show. They replay the opening show, the opening set.
And you do it in...
You
have an Oculus.
You have an Oculus and experience it and you shoot it with 3D cameras and shit, and then that's what they play the next night. Or like there's going to be digital aspects to all festivals, I think. Just like they're usually silent discos, I feel like it's pretty easy to switch, to add Oculus to a silent disco thing, to a stage, and then, hey, you're experiencing a silent disco, but you're all in this jungle dancing together and interacting with each other, and like
that'd be cool. Yeah, I think it's just the tip of the iceberg as far as how digital technology is going to be implemented within music festivals and in human shows.
So you asked me, I think that's what's going to happen. But as a punter, as someone who is a 31-year-old, I'm not a Luddite by any stretch of the imagination, but
You're not an early adopter.
I'm not an early adopter at all. That's something I'm not striving for. Like, I see people doing digital festivals or see people doing streams. And while I think it's cool and while I think there's validity to it, and I'd play a digital festival. I think we did play a digital festival last year.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure. You played one. I don't know about accessing it as a punter. I feel like I would much prefer to go to a real festival.
But what if it's not a preference? What if it's not or, it's and? So like there is still a normal festival you can attend, but now there's just going to be more people doing these festivals around the world. So you can be like, oh, I'm going to go and watch that DJ. And there's other non-digital festivals. So it's not a choice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've never watched a full Rampage set. So Rampage is a big drum and bass festival in Belgium again. And
have you ever watched someone's full stream though?
No.
So maybe you're not.
I'm definitely not the target market. But there are people who love watching those streams and sets. But I mean, I'm more of a flick thrower. But I also don't like watching, like, I can listen to a set. I'd much rather listen to one of those Rampage sets.
Yeah, I think I've put one in the background.
Than watch.
Yeah.
Because if I'm watching something, it's like I don't really watch many podcasts.
I don't watch any podcasts.
But I can see how people would sit down and be like, hey, let's watch the latest Your Mum's House podcast.
Yeah.
But I'm more of a listener to content. And then if I'm watching something, it's a film, documentary, pornographic film, YouTube tutorial, that kind of thing. Like, I'm not, especially with drum and bass. Like, I find if I'm watching a set, like a Rampage set, I'm like, oh fuck, that looks cool, and start thinking about like, oh, maybe that's a good mix. Fuck, I feel like mixing. Oh wait, that's a cool song. I feel like writing music. Like it's I can't just consume, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if that's partly a concentration thing, but also a like how you want to enjoy your entertainment. Like because you absorb it to be inspired. You don't just like I'm going to
absorb it. It's the same when we've talked about it before, doing a music tutorial, and how quickly into some music tutorials we're like, we might make the sound or might see a little technique and go, oh, cool, I'm going to replicate that. And then you just start writing music and you look at the tutorial and you're like, fuck, I paused that 20 minutes in because I was inspired to go off and actually what I wanted to do was write music rather than 100% learn. But yeah, I think it's an interesting realm. I saw Porter Robinson on his Instagram.
He has a digital festival called Second Sky.
Yeah.
Which ran for the first time last year and will run again. Or maybe first time.
First time this year, I think. Emanu and Bunchen did a set on there that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I like the idea.
And that was very much like you build an avatar and you run around, and if you're near someone, you can talk to them and all this kind of stuff. So it is like, I reckon there's a lot more people that are comfortable in the digital realm than we think.
Absolutely.
Like, because we're probably at like the 20-year mark of gamer culture, like mainstream gamer culture.
And us never really getting into games.
I've never worn a headset and talked to someone else playing a game,
No.
but I have sat down when I was a kid and like
I've played.
Been involved in like a LAN party thing, even just played multiplayer
I've got stoned
360 or
like got drunk or like played video games. Like I played not heaps, but I probably played like 30 or 40 times with James back in England because he played video games, but even he didn't play that much. I've always enjoyed it, but you do it for like an hour, 2 hours, and I'm like, okay.
I like the camaraderie of it.
Yeah, I like the camaraderie
and,
and it's silly
and the competition
and
and stuff like that.
But I'm never working out exactly like how to be super good. I'm like running around having fun.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
know.
not using the crouch function that much.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm not a
Tactician.
Yeah, and a gamer. Like even playing FIFA with Saro, shout out to Sarantino. Sometimes like he was like, "Oh, you can use these things," and I'm like, "Oh, just like, I'll just try and cobble some skills together to play okay." Because I don't, I'm not going to spend 10 hours playing this to get to a level where I'm going to get better. I'm just like, oh, I'll just play it for fun and like I'll learn whatever I can in the first 20 minutes. Like, yeah. But gaming aside, I think the culture allows itself to be exposed to digital anythings. Look at the rise of digital art with NFTs and things like that. You're literally saying there's something that is only exists in the digital realm. In most cases, some people produce cool physical versions which contain the same certification and have a digital version. I think Beeple did that with his. You're literally saying something that doesn't exist in the truest, in the classic sense. You're getting people to part money with it. You're getting people to spend money on it. But this is a concept that's been done for years with video games and stuff. People spending money, real money, on fake things to have in, whether it's World of Warcraft or Fortnite or something. To have something in the game, they spend their own real money. And I think that was a little bit of a gap to bridge for companies, but now it's so, what's the word, like it's just everywhere.
Well, it's like pay to play. It's the same kind of format as subscription. We'll give you the app for free.
Yeah.
We'll give you everything for free. You just have to pay us this amount of money every month.
Or even better, everything's free. But if you really want to get to the next levels, you have to buy armor, you have to buy a sword, you have to buy the Cauldron of Desire.
And that kind of works on us as humans, the human nature of wanting to be better and get better. If you're willing to pay $10 for a better gun because that's what's holding you back from being good at Fortnite or whatever game it is, you'll do it.
So in which case, people will essentially pay for the fun. Whereas like 20 years ago, you used to say to someone, the technology wasn't there and everything to allow it to be so immersive and good, high quality. But 20 years ago, you say, would you pay for a digital festival? All that people would have in their heads is like, a DVD filmed of someone's show, and they'd be like, "Yeah, we do. I just paid $40 for The Wall by Pink Floyd, or Metallica. I just paid for that concert on DVD, and I watch it just on a TV." But then you could have sold them on the concept of, "Oh no, it's like immersive or something." I think people would have struggled with it, but now the technology's there, and also our ability to pay so easily for things. I think it's going to be something that's like definitely got a future.
100%.
I wonder when we will play our first like kind of more immersive one where we film some stuff on a green screen or we do some stuff, because that'd be quite a fun show to come up with. Like, the Echo and Sidetrack digital festival show. It could be more than just us playing. Like there'd be moments of us playing, but then there could be like, press a button to make someone do something, or,
There's lots of possibilities. There's endless possibilities.
Yeah.
With digital format. I think it's just finding someone who's got the technical know-how to achieve some of the things that we might come up with.
But yeah, that's what's cool about, collaborating with other people, is that you get to say, I'm going to give 100% of my expertise into one thing, and I want your 100% of your expertise in your thing, and together we're going to make something that's 200% good.
Yeah.
I think the maths works out.
I think the maths does work out.
Yeah, but it's an exciting thing, and I think it's going away, and I think I'd actually like to. I think I'm going to buy tickets to go to the Splendor one and check that out, see what that's like.
Have you got some sort of VR?
No, I just do it on my desktop, see what happens, just to see what it's like, just to see what it is. But maybe one of the VR ones that comes, we should try and find someone with a VR headset, or even just doing that on the desktop, seeing what kind of technology
It'd be
is
interesting
out there.
to both invest in an Oculus or something.
I think there's a few other things we've got to think
Wear
about.
one while we produce.
Before.
Would you ever produce in a virtual place?
Well, this is something I've thought about in the past, that it's only a matter of time before, again, that technology's there. So you have your interface that you produce on is pretty much just it works like normal, and then you could go into a specific studio, like in virtual reality, and play sounds and record sounds and drag and drop, like Minority Report or something like that, and have that whole thing be your interface for production. And then you could buy different rooms. Like, I want a room that sounds like this, and you could walk into that room from your virtual studio
And hear that room.
But that's also going to require all of our software to be ported into the virtual world. That said, I don't think it's going to be so important that the software is virtual, as in drag and drop with a few functionality would be fine, but you don't need to be able to go behind the window or do all that kind of stuff.
No.
I don't think. But if you can do some pretty simple movements in your software, but then the real addition of the virtual reality is being able to go in spaces, pick up instruments, touch other things in a real kind of way, I think that's definitely, all of this, that's definitely really cool. And all of this is moving in some weird way towards the whole of reality existing in the digital format. And then it's like, I have a life here and then I have another life there. That's the Matrix.
Yeah. But imagine if you could come into a studio that had it was all grey. Everything was grey. Greyed out. And there were drumsticks here, a grey synth, a grey piano, maybe some other maybe a drum kit. It's all kind of grey felt. And then you were put on the Oculus and was initialize studio setting for today is by the lake, by one of the lakes, the fjord in Norway. And everything changed, so it looked like you were sitting at a desk in front of a fjord in Norway, and there was a little boat in the distance. And then you looked at your computer, and the computer kind of came up there, and you're like, okay, the only thing that would be real would be the speakers. And then you were like, I want to load up Sylenth. And you load up Sylenth, and you go, which Sylenth is a plug-in, a synth. And you go over to your keyboard, and Sylenth is kind of mapped onto the keyboard.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely going to happen.
And then you change physically. You can change things. And then maybe you've got your...
So it's like a blank keyboard in physical world.
Yeah.
But it gets loaded with digital
Yeah, it gets loaded with digital stuff. So then you can still play it, and it feels like a piano. But you can then go, I want to switch to Serum. And then the Serum thing goes there. And then you can go to your drum kit and you're like, I want to...
So that's what you're talking about is augmented reality. And I think that's probably closer.
Yeah.
And imagine you had that set up. You could get that set up in this studio.
Yeah.
You could be like, I'm just gonna. I bought a blanks. They're called blank synths, and it's a synth that looks like like an MS-20 or something.
Should we be giving away these ideas?
Yeah, please. I'd love someone to make one. Then tell us about it. It's like a synth that's completely blank, and then you load digitally
Something onto it.
and then it becomes all synths, but you can play it. And then you wear a special pair of glasses that make it look like the thing, but you look like the synth, but you can still see the real world around you.
Because wouldn't it be cool if you could like change? You wanted a break, and you just step up and you're like, "Show me the middle of the sun," and you kind of just look out in one direction, and like it takes you to the solar system, or like the middle of the sun.
Produce on the moon.
You can produce on the moon. You can just like. We always talk about how important sometimes a physical space is to writing a specific kind of music, and how inspiring physical spaces are, especially to me at least, because I'm more of a visual person. So imagine if you could literally look out and be like inspired by the rings of Saturn or something like that.
That'd be sick. He's about to interrupt again.
Carl's interrupting the podcast again. Hey, thanks. I need those. Are you going home now? Okay. Bye.
You did it though.
No days are useless. You took that photo for us. Thanks, buddy.
See you, buddy.
Like, producing on the moon or Saturn.
And you could buy different spaces for your virtual world that you have. And you have a good computer, you have a little side computer that runs your virtual stuff, and then you just load that up. This is
such a good fucking idea, but I just have no idea the first step to achieving it.
I've got no idea the fifth step to achieving it. It's so crazy, but it could be done. I think. And I think this stuff's way closer than we think. And also I think the other exciting thing is we're putting on our current knowledge of how things work onto the digital realm.
Yeah.
It's like how people thought that internet shopping would be a digital supermarket or a digital department store. That's what they thought internet shopping would be in the 90s. It's like, yeah, well, we're going to have to digitize all this space and do this, and you'll walk through the store. No, e-commerce is just a list of shit with a photo, and you go, I want that one.
Yeah.
And we're very happy to use it at that level, and it's improved over time and everything like that. But, so we're putting our current knowledge of what a digital studio or a augmented reality studio could look like onto what we think might happen. Whereas when it actually happens, it's going to be like way crazier things that they come up with. Again, I've used this example before, but it's like getting excited about the original iPhone because you think that it's cool that you can go on the internet with your phone and take photos with it. Not even considering that all these extra tools are going to allow for all these extra technologies to come. All the apps that have come, rideshare that's come, like even the growth of like payment on card and things like that.
Yeah.
It's like new technologies always give new ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's exciting, but also can be a little bit overwhelming.
You can, especially when you don't, when you don't know. It's like to fantasize about something is good, but then when the actual technology exists and you have to kind of understand it to a certain degree, it's like, whoa, maybe sometimes you just want to put on a record and listen to it in a dark room.
Yeah. Yeah, which is an augmented reality of its own kind. Like close your eyes and, drift off with a pair of headphones.
It's a true analog augmented reality.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll come around to. It'll go like augmented reality and virtual reality for so long. And maybe in 300 years, that's kind of where we're all living. And then just like the Matrix, there's going to be these renegades that are like, this is the real world, bro. And people like the real world suddenly becomes like underground. Like I stepped out to the real world and got my dick sucked for realsies, or like
Whoa, man.
had sex with a real woman rather than having sex with some cybernetic organism, or like you do experiences that are real. Imagine if you get to a point where like we're eating everything digitally, or like we're never hungry because we're just getting a serum, and people are like, have you ever tried an apple?
Yeah.
And you'd be like, no, I've tried apple flavor.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, like a real apple, like you actually chew it.
What?
What? You chew it? The fuck are you talking about? Yeah. We'll get to a point where I think Rogan's talked about this, like we will become the great aliens. Like no need for genitalia, no need for buttholes. Like we won't shit anymore. We won't have sex. We won't procreate. We'll do all those things with technology, and we'll kind of just become like smooth people.
Yeah, I don't want to be here when that happens.
And all the shame that we have about being humans will be washed away with microchips and computers and wires and motherboards.
I still think I'll be an analog guy. Not completely, but I think I'll still enjoy the analog forever. I don't think I'm going to be someone who fully embraces and dives into the mad digital.
No.
I think I'll still always enjoy writing things on a piece of paper and drawing things on a piece of paper and, touching stuff and
I think a lot of
reading
people
books
will.
and things like that. But I think, people that aren't even born yet, maybe less so.
Yeah. It might be interesting. I'd like to ask Leo and Seb. They're still reading books though. It would have to be like maybe their kids. That's our nephews. Like children's children. Be like, what do you think of reading a book? Or would you prefer to read a Kindle?
But what, they've got augmented reality books, which are like pop-up books on crack.
Yeah, I wonder how much. It's like giving a kid Call of Duty when he's 9 and then being
saying,
like, well, actually, like, we should play this game, and it's
Bond from 64.
Yeah, Bond from 64, or even something older like Pong or something like arcadey, and they're like, these graphics are shit. Like, you can't even see anything. I kind of see my reflection in the water. Like, what the hell? Yeah. I guess maybe it has no sense of nostalgia to them, and that's what it gives it value to us.
Oh, yeah, I haven't thought of that. The nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
Lots to ponder on this week's podcast.
Yeah, lots to ponder.
Thanks for chatting to me.
Thanks for chatting to me, buddy. I hope you feel better.
I'm going to have a painkiller.
Okay, get some water. Stay away from me. And have a lovely day.
Thank you. And thank you, dear listener, for tuning in once again to our weekly podcast.
I love you, buddy.
I love you too, buddy.
And I love you, listener. And if you're having a tough day today, know that it's all going to be better.
And dive on into the digital realm where nothing can hurt you and everything's A-okay.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast. Make sure you subscribe to us on your podcast app and keep up to date with all new episodes. They're going to be coming out once a week. We are Echo and Sidetrack on Facebook and Instagram. On Twitter, we are Echo Sidetrack. Go listen to our music on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, YouTube, or wherever your ears consume happiness. Lots of love, people.